Have you ever thought about it? The calmer you can have a taste as sweet as honey? As it is, at times, life brings a few surprises, so sticky that you have to be prepared for what's coming. And what's happened in Mobile, and in fact, it seems to be a story of the output of the film's comedy, with a touch of the justice for others. Think about it. An average day, the sky cleared, and the soothing sound of the bees buzzing around the hive, and all seemed well, until it was decided that the scenario of the piece, it was the perfect venue for an adventure that's a little out of the ordinary. Have you ever gone through a situation where everything seemed to be under control, but all of a sudden, an unexpected turn of events changes the course of things? As it is, this story is going to show you that sometimes the universe has a way peculiar to teach the lessons, and all of this with the footprint, humorous, because, in essence, the life loves to spend time with you. I sentee it? Have you ever wondered how a simple action can set off a chain of events that is so unusual? And it's the most curious thing is that, many times, these events seem to play in the destiny, a kind of a trick question as well, sweet or sour, depending on which side you're on. Stay with me till the end because this story has everything to surprise you in a way you never thought possible. You'll find out that at times, the universe is not only to return the same money, but it does so in a way that is so creative it seems to be a work of art in the form of justice. And, hey, what you're going to find out now, you will think twice before attempting to go over the top of it is just because of the nature of a friend of mine. It is not only wise, but also is very clingy when it comes to doing the role of a judge. Let's take a closer look at this scenario. It is more than just a story of the robbery of the temple. Here, every detail has its own meaning, each character has his attitude, and most importantly, the lesson of life I wanted to teach. It's so delicious, and the honey. And, believe me, you're going to want to stay until the end to see how a seemingly small action can become a real thunderstorm, golden, and performance of the Wasps, which has come to put everything back in its place. So, get ready, because the next chapter is going to show you what in life, even the sweetest of plans, may end up with a good acid, or rather, the well-used. Sometimes life will surprise us in ways we can't foresee, and it is precisely in these moments that we realize how much our actions, however small they may seem, they carry a heavy burden. Each and every choice we make, every action that is quiet, has an impact that resonates in addition to that we can only imagine at the time. It's like we are throwing stones in a pond quiet, the waves are spread out, they multiply, and, at times, lead to a chain that no one can control it. And then, we can ask, do we really have the power to influence the course of things? Or you're just browsing around in the tide of fate that had already been traced? These questions are left up in the air, like a mist. You don't want to fade out, and the invitation to self-reflection. When you stop to think about it, we realize that what we are doing today is not isolated. It connects you with everything around it, forming a spider web, invisible to the possibilities and the consequences of that. It is with a sense of responsibility to be silent, to every step, however small they may seem to you, it may be the one that changes everything. And, even in the apparent simplicity, there are a beauty deep in it, a reminder that we are all a part of something bigger than themselves. That is, our actions have meaning, and that, in some way, we are all knit together along the way. If all of this makes sense to you, you can leave a comment here below. Please share with me your insights, or any experience that you have experienced before, something that made him realize how much his little choices that can make a big difference. Your participation is what keeps the conversation alive, because, as you say, we understand that this is a message that deserves to reach out to more people. And if you want to continue to explore these topics with me, take advantage and subscribe to the channel. This video is an opportunity to reflect, grow, and strengthen our community that believes in the power of each and every one of us to transform the world around us. Right now, for us to continue to deepen this topic, there's something even more important what you need to understand. I now want to go more in depth on this subject, because, in fact, it is the realization that all the things that we feel, what we think, what we believe, it is a bridge designed to work on in our transformation, and often hidden beneath layers of distraction, the routines, the the external noise, which insists on the need for us to do not forget that we are the creators of our own reality. It is as if, in the rush of day-to-day, people had become accustomed to living in the automatic mode, allowing the emotions to accumulate, and that the beliefs have looked without even realizing it. And then when I stop to think about it, you ask yourself, how did I got here? That is how my life has transformed in a standard that seems to be so hard to change. And the answer lies in our connection to the things which we carry within ourselves, in our ability to recognize what is real and what is just a story that we come to know and accept it as inevitable. The big reveal is that, for the most part, that in the limit doesn't come from the outside world, but on our own interpretations of the stories that we tell about ourselves, the beliefs that we have accepted as absolute truth. These beliefs, often as a profound, invisible, beneath a structure for the thoughts and emotions that seem normal, you are in the trapping. When we begin to understand this dynamic, it changes everything. Because then, yes, you, the people, have the power to break down those roots, to the question of what was the income tax, to make space for a new narrative, one that is aligned with who we truly are and who we can become. And this change is not simple. It is about having the courage to look within, to face the emotions that are more difficult, to have to accept that sometimes, in our own hands had made, the barriers that prevent us from moving forward. And it goes to a fundamental question. How do you do that in a thoughtful way? How to turn that understanding into a daily practice, and that it is not just a reflection in the moment, but it is a real revolution in the homeland. The answer to this lies in the attention to the full, in the presence of the true, the ability to observe our thoughts without judging them, to feel our emotions without identifying with them. You realize that all you feel is a message, a sign, anything that needs to be taken care of, acknowledged, and released. When we become the observer of ourselves, we begin to realize that we are much more than our external environment. We are in essence, that it is always in the reconstruction, and the ever-changing. And it is this evolution that it is just when you have decided to take on the responsibility that we carry it within us, instead of searching for reasons outside. It is at this point that the transformation becomes inevitable, because, to understand that our reality is a manifestation of direct to what we believe in, our thoughts and feelings, we are left with the key in his hand. The ability to change everything and create a new chapter in its history will be available to us, because, in essence, we are the authors of our own destiny. And this awareness does not come from one time to another. It is built up gradually, with small, daily decisions, with particular attention on the present, and the courage to abandon the old patterns and embrace a new you with hope and determination. Each and every choice that we make in the sense, it is like a seed that is planted in the soil of our soul, and with all the time it is the fruit of love, peace, freedom, and authenticity. And to this day, in spite of the challenging, as it is the most beautiful that can be taken, because it would lead us in the direction of our true essence, which is the source of all transformation is possible. Now, I want you to go even deeper on this subject, because, when you figure all of this out, we realize that the true power lies in our ability to pick and choose what we have inside of us. And that, as subtle as it may seem, it is the one that determines if we'll be stuck in the shadows of the past or move forward into the light of our potential is unlimited. It's as if every single thought you were a seed, and every emotion in a rain that nourishes the seed. If you have sown doubts, fears, and limiting beliefs, we can't wait for it to flower of different things. But if we want to cultivate thoughts of hope, of faith, of love, of itself, in the garden of our mind to be transformed, and with it, everything around you changes as well. Because, deep down, it's all a matter of the frequency of the same page. And our task is to learn how to tune into the frequency of our true nature, one that has never been affected by the storm outside, which always remains pure, resilient, and ready to bloom. So, at this point, a lot of people are asking, how do you do this in practice? How to keep that connection alive, even in the face of chaos, and the difficulty of the questions? The answer to this lies in the discipline of the heart, and the courage to reprogram your mind every day, to reaffirm the things that's really important to feed that lifts us up, even when everything around them tries to pull us down. Because, in the end, this is a conscious choice of who you want to be. And it is that choice, it is the sincerity, it's a bridge of sound which takes us beyond the limitations of what makes us connect with a greater power that is at the very core of my soul. And it is this force that is able to transform into any of the above scenarios, to rewrite the story to make you realize that you are infinitely capable of creating a life in alignment with our deeper purpose. For this reason, each and every day, with every decision, you have the opportunity to reaffirm this truth, that we are the architects of our inner world. And when you do that, you start to realize that all the things that seem so difficult to change, in fact, it's only a matter of time and perseverance, of self-love. Because, at the end of the day, when we connect with that inner strength, it all lines up. And life is starting to reflect the new frequency of this new vision of himself. And there you have it, the transformation is no longer something in the distance, and it is a daily journey, a journey of rediscovery, liberation from rebirth. That's the real magic, to realize that no matter what the external circumstances might seem to be difficult, and the higher power that is always within us. And when you find out the truth, we can begin to create a reality that truly represents us, that makes us feel alive and full, at peace with who we are and who we can become. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. When we begin to realize that all this power, all this essence that resides within each of us is a kind of door it opens and in our minds, revealing a world that seemed to be an invisible, hidden under the layers of doubt, fear, and the limitations that we have accepted as absolute truth. It's like finding a treasure buried deep beneath the earth, in our own history, and the wealth that has always been there, just waiting for it. We have the courage to dig it up, look at it from the front, and recognize that it's not a question of luck, fate, or chance, but of a deep connection with who we are of the truth. When this realization dawns, it challenges everything we have been taught about what is possible or impossible it is, as to who we can be, or not to be, and it puts us in front of a silent but powerful, to continue living a life that is shaped by who we were told that we had to be, or to take control, change your beliefs and create a new narrative, one that is truly our own. And then comes the concept of self-knowledge, and that it is not just an intellectual pursuit, but it is a visceral experience, a journey back to the center of your own being. It is like a journey to the inside of a dark cave, where every step is a discovery, each of the reflection on the revelation. In the process, we realize that a lot of our own limitations are the buildings that we have accepted as the truth, which I have been taught to accept a society which is often, he would prefer to remain in ignorance, for comfortable to one's own potential. But, when you get in touch with this inner power, you start to see that we can rewrite these stories, we can turn our pain into learning experiences, for our failures are stepping in a steady stream. And, therefore, the mind becomes an ally, a source of never-ending possibilities that, instead of an enemy that keeps us from moving forward. From that perspective, it changes everything. Because it is not a matter of wanting something out of it, but to recognize that all that we seek is already within you, waiting to be activated. It is like a seed, which, when you get in the right mood, it starts to sprout, and to grow with strength, fortitude, and beauty. And it is that strength, the power to create our reality, and it is not subject to external circumstances, but in the way we see the world, and our daily choices, our willingness to believe in our own power to transform. When you stop to think about it, we realize that the real magic is not something external, an event, or a person who is able to save us, but our ability to change our vision, and change the focus, to understand that we are the authors of our own story. And, at this point, the responsibility is no longer to be a burden, and you shall be to you an opportunity to awaken to true freedom. Because, when you understand that the power to change lies within us, we begin to make choices that are more conscious, more in line with who you really are. Every decision, every action, and shall have a weight of one's intent more clearly, and a much deeper connection with the purpose. And it's this authenticity that arise in the major accomplishments, as they do not depend on any external factors, but from a conviction, the inside of which we create, recreate, evolve and, above all, set us free from the shackles that keep us from being who we really are. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. Because when you tap into this essence, we found that the greatest change happens when we stop seeking validation from outside, and we listen to that inner voice that's always been there, whispering truths that are, at times, seem to be daunting or challenging. But, it is exactly in the confrontation with one's own interior, where we find the answers to the most honest, the courage to be yourself, to embrace our imperfections, and, especially, to understand that real change doesn't come from a magical formula, but a decision on the daily that we can connect you with that power is invisible, but the huge, pulsating inside of each and every one of us. And, as well, to feed on such a connection, you begin to realize that your life is no longer a mere reflection of the circumstances, and it turns out to be a conscious creation, a work of art, shaped by our choices, our emotions, and our deepest intention. To realize this truth, it's like turning on a light in the darkness, a light that illuminates the paths by which before would have seemed impossible. It reveals the possibilities that were hidden in the shadow of the fear and the doubt. This is a wake-up call that challenges everything you thought was right or wrong, that it invites us to abandon the mask and the expectations of others, and we surrender to the flow of who we really are, without reserve, and with the courage and compassion. Because, deep down, this is the most important freedom, to know that no matter what happens out there, the core is still intact and ready to show up, transform and create a new reality, one that is truly our own, made up of dreams, of hope, and an unwavering faith in one's own ability to succeed, to grow and to love. And when you understand it, you start to realize that all we need to change our lives, it's right there, within us, just waiting for us to have the courage to open the door, to listen to that quiet voice, to follow the call that comes from the very depths of our being. Because, at the end of the day, this is the greatest magic of all. Realize that you are the creators of our own journey, and that every choice is a chance to rewrite our history and free ourselves from the shackles of the past and embrace a new age of authenticity, personal growth, and unconditional love for who we are and who we can become. And then, when you have this understanding, it becomes a part of us. It changes everything. Life is no longer a struggle against the circumstances, and it turns out to be a dance. It is a spontaneous expression of our true essence. It's a chance to live with purpose, passion, and the certainty that, regardless of the external environment, the greater the power, it always has been, and always will be, in all of us. And when you realize this, you begin to understand that true freedom is not in control of it all around us, but to master it what is going on inside of us. It is such a profound silence that lingers in the heart, a peace that is born out of the understanding that we are the creators of our own reality, even if that life is to try to convince us otherwise. This transformation is quiet, often overlooked, is the one that really gives us the strength to move forward, even when everything seems to come crashing down, or when the world insists on the need to challenge our faith. It is at this point that you realize that in the battle that we are going through out there, most of the time, it's only a reflection of the war that we are going through internally, the doubts, the fears, and boundaries that we have created, without notice. When we went to see the truth, it's a lighter, brighter, as if a curtain was slowly lifted up to reveal a scene that has always been there, hidden under the layers of insecurities and limitations. And with this revelation, it seems to be so simple to do, has an impact so deep, that you begin to change our perception of everything. The obstacles that before seemed to be insurmountable to lose their power, because they realize that they are not there to stop us, but to teach us something about our resilience, our ability to adapt to change. Every challenge is seen as an opportunity for growth, a chance to reaffirm who we are in addition to the mask, and the expectations that are imposed by the external world. And on this journey, we have begun to understand that the greatest power we have is in the same time, that which is within, that which connects us with our essence is pure and true. It's like a light that never goes out, even in the blackest moments, because it's a part of who we really are. And when we can connect with that light, everything around you start to rearrange it in a way that makes sense, and that it brings you peace, which is the courage to continue. When this connection becomes stronger, you realize that your life isn't a constant battle, but it's a delicate dance, a choreographer who have learned how to interpret it with an open heart. Every step you take, every movement, is an expression of our authenticity and a manifestation of what you truly believe in and feel. And, well, what seemed to be a wasted effort, a fight for the destiny, it turns into a celebration of our journey. Freedom is no longer something foreign, an achievement of which depends on factors beyond our reach, and it turns out to be a natural condition of the one who truly knows you to your inner power. This is the understanding. He gives us a kind of light that seemed to be impossible. In a sense, we are exactly where we are supposed to be, living with the things you were meant to live. And in that moment, it all makes sense, everything makes sense, even when the external environment it tries to pull us into the chaos. However, it is not something that happens at one time or another. It's a construction site daily, with a conscious decision to reconnect with what you really are, even when everything around you insists on the need to be distracted, or to challenge it. It is a journey of self-discovery, which is about having the courage to look within, to meet with the parties that we would prefer to conceal or deny it. But, in doing so, we open up a door to real freedom, which is not dependent on external conditions, but rather of a deep connection with our inner selves. And that connection is what gives us the strength to persist, to create, to change our reality from the inside to the outside. Because, at the end of the day, everything comes into a thought, in emotion, in his or her ability to believe in your own truth. And, as most of the people know, the more that it's a never-ending source of power, hope, and love. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. When you look closely at the essence that dwells in us, we realize that it is not something far away or out of reach. She's always been there, quietly, waiting for us to have the courage to listen to it. And, in doing so, it changes everything. Because we understand that we are the authors of our story, the creators of our own destiny. And, more than that, we began to feel that no matter what happens outside, you can keep that heart is firm and true as an anchor that sustains us in every storm. This understanding takes us on an emotional maturity that many people search for years, not realizing that she is within each and every one of us, just waiting for the right moment to be found. And then, when it happens in life is revealed in a completely new, more authentic, more in line with what you really are. It is as if a veil was removed, exposing the beauty that was always there, hidden between the layers of fear, of doubt, of the expectation that we have gained along the way. And when you realize this fact, we can begin to understand that it's not to gain anything out there, but to cultivate that which is already there in all of us. It is a kind of an awakening, a reminder that we are more than the circumstances that surround us. And, when you accept that responsibility, and we feel a peace that is beyond in any situation, a calm that comes from an understanding that, no matter how hard it is to be in the way, she is ours to make the best use of it, to turn pain into wisdom, and failure in the learning process. This is the true magic of self-awareness, the ability to transform into any of the external environment as an opportunity for personal growth. And the more we go deeper in the understanding, the more we realize that the universe conspires in favor of the one who acknowledges her own power, and who to trust, in its essence, and that, above all else, she believes in the power of his soul. Because it is the one that actually moves mountains. That is what makes the difference between living a life of hope and to live a life of purpose. And it is at this point that you realize that what really matters is not what is outside, but what we carry inside of us. And, to nurture, to that essence of love, gratitude, and courage, we can begin to create a reality which reflects our essence. It is a journey of discovery and constant reconstruction of everyday, where every choice, every thought, every action, is shaping our history, in a way, conscious and powerful. And, in doing so, we are the authors of a story that is worth living, is a story that pulses with authenticity and that it inspires those around you to strive for such a deep connection with who we really are. Because, in the end, it all comes down to it, that the greatest power has always been within us, just waiting for us to have the courage to recognize it and to live in accordance with it. And when you do that, everything in our world is transformed, because your vibration is changing, and our energy is higher, and we attract the things that really suits who you are to the truth. And, well, life is still a struggle, and it's a dance. It's a genuine expression of our essence is pure and true. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. It is this idea that the vibration shapes of everything that is happening around us is not just a theory. It's a fact that many of us are just beginning to understand when you stop to think about their own experiences. At times, we do find yourself wanting to change the world, searching for something out there. In the name of Christ, you need to change is the way in which we can see and feel everything that exists within us all. And it all starts in those little details in the choices of daily living, of thinking that feed on the emotions that we grow. Because, deep down, you're like a mirror that reflects everything that we have on the inside. When we realize this, our liability to you if it gets bigger, but it's also the most liberating, because you realize that you're not at the mercy of fate, we're not victims of our circumstances, but rather, the creators are aware of our situation. It's as if, suddenly, all the weight of trying to control everything out there, Musashi, giving rise to a sensation of lightness, of freedom, of true, because we understand that it is the power to change lies within us and in our ability to change the frequency. And this, in fact, it is not something that happens from one moment to another. It is a journey and a process for continuous alignment, where each and every step that we take brings us closer and more in the state of harmony that you are searching. It's like a dance, each movement, each breath, each thought, each feeling, and contributes to the unique choreography, which reflects our essence of care. In this way, we can begin to understand that our emotions are signals, indicator of our level of vibration, and you can choose from time to time, and if we are going to feed the fear, the doubt, the hope, and trust. And when you make that conscious decision, we have begun to realize that the world outside begins to respond in a different way, because the energy is more in line with what we really desire, that which is most real to us. And in that moment, everything takes on a new meaning in it, because we realize that what seemed to be a constant struggle in our lives, in fact, it is a learning opportunity, a chance to get to know each other better, and to be free from the vintage patterns that keep us from progressing. That is a challenge to be a bridge that leads to a higher version of ourselves. And the more we embrace this journey, the more clear it becomes that you're not here by chance, and that every situation, every encounter, every decision has a purpose. You can help us to awaken to this truth, that we are co-creators of everything that we, and our vibration is the master key that opens the door for a life that is lighter in weight, more fully, more in tune with who you really are. And this understanding, in this deep emotional connection that transforms anything, because we are able to realize that there is no separation between what we feel and what is happening around us. It is all an extension of who we are, from the inside out. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. It is as if, behind all of the things that we see, and there is an invisible layer, a truth that hides many of the times we ignoring them out of fear or ignorance. This is the layer that is our essence, our true self, which never failed to be there, just waiting for us to remember who we really are. When we were able to gain access to that space in the inside, this is the source of peace and clarity. You realize that what really matters is not the external circumstances, but we have a connection with that which is eternal. It never fails. And when you do that, everything in our world is transformed, because your vibration is changing, and our energy is higher, and we attract the things that really suits who you are to the truth. It's like to wake up to this truth and the life of the church in a battle to make it an expression, a manifestation of the natural from the core of the most pure, and the dance of harmony, which connects us with the universe on her more fully. And, at this point, it is clear that our most important task is to remind us of who we are, and that you have the power to create and manifest. It is not by chance, but by choice, aware of it. And so, we continue on that journey knowing that it all starts within, and that is the true transformation is a journey of self-discovery and self-love. That is, when you dig deeper, it reveals the strength of the more dependable and long-lasting. And to the degree that this understanding deepens, we begin to realize that the biggest obstacle has always been inside of you. We are not the external circumstances, or of the difficulties that arise along the way, but it's in our own strength, our doubts, the fear of being truly who you are. It is as if, for such a long time, we were living in a kind of a mask and a limited edition version of ourselves, believing that that was all it was supposed to be. But, at the core, we are infinite, have been able to create, to transform, to evolve beyond the limits that once seemed to be attacks. And there, in that moment of clarity, a kind of awakening silent, a voice inside begins to whisper to you all the things that we are looking out there is already within you. The whole time, just waiting for us to decide to open the door, we decide to see beyond the veil of fear and doubt. True freedom is born out of recognition, of understanding that we are the authors of our own story, and that, when we assume this responsibility, we began to write the different chapters, most in line with the core of the most pure. And it is this process of discovery is, in fact, it is a journey of courage. Because sometimes, it's easier to hide in the comfort zone, the routine, the familiarity of the narrative. We are already familiar with the face of the stranger who dwells within us. But it is precisely here, in this game, we can find our greatest strength. Each and every fear that you face, each and every question that dissolves, it's such a layer is present, revealing a more authentic, more free. And when you do that, we can begin to understand that true power is not in the control of the external world, but to master our own minds, our emotions, our thinking patterns that often appear in the trap. And that shift in perspective that is, as a silent revolution, which is happening, slowly, but the one that turns it all around us. Because when we get allows you to see what that truth is, everything you win a new color, a new texture. The difficulties they have the weight of a final judgment, and if you make only the obstacles of a temporary, with growth opportunities in disguise. The most beautiful is that which, when you drill down on that path, we realize that we are not alone. There are thousands of souls who are also in search of, that you are also enjoying this so-called internal wake-up call, remind you of who you really are. And, in this connection, that the power of the self, it creates a sort of invisible web, is a force that moves us all forward, even in moments of doubt and fatigue. And, at this point, it should be clear that this journey, this is a building on a daily conscious decision to reconnect with what is most true in all of us. It is not a phase, it goes on, but it's a state of mind, which remains active to the extent that fed our goal to grow and for us to love more deeply. With each step taken in the direction of self-knowledge, that is a victory in itself, an affirmation that we are on the right track. And, in the course of this journey, we have learned to trust in ourselves, to acknowledge our light, even when the world seems to insist that we show to the contrary. It is a chance to rewrite our history, and create a story based on our very essence, our truth, the more pure, and they have never been outside of the us, but for a long time, it was forgotten. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. Because, when you think about all of this, we've noticed that this is the force that lives in you is, in fact, that is the source of all that is, we wish to express. When we are aligned with it, and the universe begins to conspire in our favor, the ways in which before seemed to be magic, but they are, in fact, is the result of our genuine connection with you that is real. It's like, to be free from the bonds of your ego, leave a space for that essence of the purest manifestations, along with the opportunities, the people, the possibilities of what you really resonate with our purpose. This is a secret that few people know about, the ability to change our life. It is not outside, but within, in one's ability to believe, to reinvent ourselves, to choose every day to be our best. And when you do that, you start to realize that the universe will respond on the same page, bringing you everything that you cheer and authenticity and love. And in that moment of clarity, you start to realize that the true up is a decision and a daily choice to keep alive a connection with our inner selves, even in the face of the storms that may come up. Because, deep down, all of the things that we look for peace, love, and success, the achievement is within us, just waiting to be awakened. And it is like a key that opens the door before seemed to be unattainable, revealing that they are more powerful, more capable, than we could ever imagine. And to be free of these shackles and invisible, we can begin to live a more aligned, a genuine, happy. Because, at the end of the day, the real transformation happens when we find out that it can only be found within. And when you understand it, everything changes, without an effort, only to have the decision to be true to one's own truth. And this is why I want to leave you with a reflection. Perhaps he could show someone that you are listening to right now. He says that I came to realize the truth. And while that fact is revealed, slowly, we realize that the answer you were looking for is in the gestures, words, or even in the achievements outside of it have always been there, within us, hidden under the layers of doubt, fear, and expectations, which we from time to time. It is as if, all of a sudden a veil had been lifted up, and the goings-on will begin to make sense of it. It is not something new that has been introduced, but because of something that was always there, just waiting for us to have the courage to see it. At this time, we understand that the journey of self-discovery is not a straight line, but a spiral that expands. It requires patience, compassion, and an array of genuinely coming to grips with what is most real in itself. When you start to listen to that inner voice, the one that had always been there, but didn't have the space or the courage to be heard, and then everything changes. And, in fact, that change is not something that happens all of a sudden. It's a realization. Acceptance is quiet and steady, that there is nothing that can fill the void that only we can fill with our own selves. It is a release, a kind of return to the home, to the place where it all makes sense, and where the peace is an accomplishment in itself, but it is a natural condition of one who knows that for a fact. And for that, we can see that the greatest illusion, it may be to believe, that what we are looking for, in any way, you are saved. It's as if we all tried to find that one piece of the puzzle, that is, in fact, it has always been in your own hand is hidden under a layer of uncertainty. And in that moment, the world around us begins to change, because we think if you change it, and everything seemed to be difficult or unreachable, it becomes an opportunity for growth, a chance for us to reconnect with who we really are. Such a deep connection with our inner selves, he gives us a power that is not dependent on the validation of the outside, the opinion, or the circumstances is fleeting, but a certain quieter, almost with a sense of who we are on the right path, even though sometimes it seems to be unclear or challenging. And that's when we realize that the true courage is about being honest with ourselves, to embrace our imperfections, our fears, our doubts, do not let them define it, but rather to teach us. Because, deep down, every experience, every mistake, every moment of doubt, it is an opportunity to deepen our connection to the truth. And, in doing so, we learn that life is a mirror that reflects the very thing that we have in ourselves. How much more will we welcome them on our shadow, the more light we can see for ourselves, and the more clear it becomes that it is the greatest power we have is our ability to create, a matter of decision-making on the inside. This is a decision to be who you really are, to follow your heart, trust in your intuition, no matter what the world says or expects of us. Because, in the end, the true freedom is born out of the connection with the bona fides, that the courage to be who we are without the masks and the masks that we wear in order to please other people. And then, when you have this understanding, it becomes a part of who you are, and we make it light, even in the face of a storm. Because, you know, that all of you are inside, you feel a quiet strength that sustains all of us. It reminds us that we are not alone in this journey. We are in a constant state of evolution, a process of discovery that never ends, because each and every step reveals a new layer, us. And to this day, no matter how challenging they might seem at times, it is, in fact, it is the greatest gift we can give ourselves, a chance for us to reconnect with our true self, and to live in a way that is aligned with our inner selves, to transform into a matter of an in-depth understanding of who you really are. And, in doing so, we seek the answers out there, because, in fact, it has always been within us, just waiting for us to have the courage to find them. I now want to go more in depth on this issue, because if you think about all of this, we see that the inner journey is not only a quest for self-knowledge, but it is a reconstruction of the daily, a practice that continued to be present, to allow yourself to feel, and to be open to the invisible, that which dwells within each and every one of us. It is a constant invitation to quiet the mind, listen to your heart, and trusting in the wisdom that comes from the inside out. And then, in the silence, you will find the answer to the most powerful of all, who we are, first and foremost, the people of the light. You will be able to transform their own lives, and when you choose to connect with the essence of pure, true. It is a journey that requires courage, yes, but it is also a delicacy and a deep understanding of each and every step. However small it may seem, it is a win, and a statement that you are on the right track. And then, in the midst of all of this, it is certain that the greatest revolution that happens when we try to get outside, and we are beginning to recognize the power that already exists inside of us. Because, at the end of the day, this is the real freedom, the highest achievement that can be reached, for the authenticity of being who we are without fear, and without any masks to fully connect with our essence. And in that moment, you realize that all the things that we look for in life, and in fact, it's a reflection of who we are, just waiting for us to have the courage to recognize it. Says right there, I came to realize the truth. And yet, even so, a lot of times, we get lost in the search for the exterior, as a result, unceasing fill in gaps with the projects that have come out of it, as if it is our essence and it was something that could be purchased, earned, or validated by the opinion of others. The truth is that this is a constant search for approval, recognition. It is like a shade that keeps us, causing us to forget that what really matters is inside of us, hidden under the layers of doubt, fear, and expectations, which we from time to time. And then, when we finally stop to look at inside, the shadow becomes smaller, almost disappearing in the light of our own authenticity, and the courage to be who you truly are, without masks, without any pretense. Because of the freedom, in the background, is the achievement of something that's out there, but the ability to free ourselves from what binds us, what limits us, of what is stopping us from breathing the pure air of our true nature. And this liberation is a process of quiet. A lot of times it's difficult. It requires a heart that is not always found in the rush of day-to-day routine. We got some kind of the social pressure that causes us to believe that we need to be different from who we are to be worthy of love, of success, of happiness. But, once you realize that all the things that we look for in life, it is, in fact, it is an expression of who we are now, the game changes completely. Because there is no longer any need to stress, desperate to please, to be accepted, to make it appear just perfect. We understand that perfection is never the goal, but rather the authenticity, vulnerability, and the courage to show our true self, even if it's so flawed, fragile, full of sores and scars. And in that moment, it all starts to make sense, because we realize that the greatest gift that you can give us the same, it's just the freedom to be who we are without fear of judgment, without fear of rejection. It's like opening a window and letting in the fresh air to enter, thus allowing the light from the sun to enlighten you on every hidden corner of our own emotions, our own doubts, our own deepest truths. And then, when you do this, something transformed within us, the feeling of being detached from yourself, to give way to the peace and quiet, almost invisible, that we follow each and every step, every decision, in every silence. It is in this silence that we find ourselves closer to the truth, the one who speak without fear, and crying out with no shame to dance to the beat of our hearts and minds. Because, in the end, this is the most important lesson. To understand what our authenticity, it is not an achievement, but a discovery is a continuous journey that never ends, where each step reveals a new layer of who we really are, and the more we allow ourselves to explore the depths, the more free we feel to live according to the truth. And, even in the face of doubts and the obstacles, from the voices that try to convince us that we are not enough, this is for sure the inside remains unchanged, as is a light that never goes out, leading us back to what really matters to you. We are on our own with all the colors, all of our imperfections, because that is our real strength of our the most beautiful. And then, when you realize all of this, we understand that there is nothing more liberating than to support the authenticity of the gift that you have received it in every breath, in every choice, in every moment of vulnerability. This is our essence, our hidden gem that only reveals its true beauty when we have the courage to look at it head-on, without fear, and without the skins, and with an open heart and mind, ready to embrace our own truth. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, because, in fact, it is this constant search for approval, for validation, external, and often takes us away from that which we truly are. It makes us to forget the value of what we carry inside of us. And this is where it goes to one of the biggest pitfalls of the journey. The illusion that we must be perfect in our imperfections are flaws to be hidden, when in fact, they represent our authenticity. It makes us a unique and complete. Each and every scar, every mistake, every tear shed, is a part of our history. A signature is invisible to anyone who we really are, and the more you try to hide it, the more we move away from the core. The company, with its demands for perfection, and often pushes us into the life of face masks, from the characters that we've created in order to please the world, and keeping in mind that this is a facade is just a prison disguised as freedom. And, in the process, we lose our connection to our soul, that inner voice that whispers truths that are often avoided to listen to. It is as if we are stuck in a distorting mirror, where the image that you see is the edited version, superficial, and they never get over it to reflect who we really are. And when you realize this, we can ask, why is there so much effort to keep something that was never really true? Why do we live with an account that doesn't belong to us? Perhaps this is because, at bottom, we are afraid to face our own vulnerability, to show the world that you are weak. You have no doubt that we are broken. But, in fact, the vulnerability is our greatest power, for it is here that we find the true power, the authenticity of which frees us of all the weight of trying to be someone you're not. The more we accept our own imperfections, the more that we connect with on a profound truth that makes us feel alive and whole. And here is the start of a new journey, a journey of self-discovery, in which we learn to look at the inside of it with compassion and without judgment, recognizing that each and every aspect of the us, with a love and understanding. This is the key to understand the growth of the true born out of a recognition of our own vulnerability, and the courage to show us the way we are, no masks, no pretenses. When you do this, something magical happens. You stop seeking external validation and start to validate our own existence. It's such a light, that the light within us, the light's all the way off, revealing who the real evil is, the complete acceptance of who we truly are, with all your nuance, in pain, dreams, and accomplishments. And in that moment, you realize that there is nothing more liberating than to support the authenticity of the gift that you have received it in every breath, in every choice, in every moment of vulnerability. This is our essence, our hidden gem that only reveals its true beauty when we have the courage to look at it head-on, without fear, and without the skins, and with an open heart and mind, ready to embrace our own truth. I now want to go more in depth on this subject, because, in essence, the discovery of oneself is an ongoing journey, a dance between what we need the most perfect, and the one that we consider to be imperfect, and it is in this balance that we find true freedom and the peace that goes beyond any of the conquest of the surface. When you learn to see through the eyes of love, everything around you changes. The aches and pains that before seemed to be unbearable to lose the power to define us, and all the difficulties become opportunities for growth, giving a new meaning to me. And, in doing so, we note that the biggest key to a fulfilling life is within each of us: the courage to be authentic, to the provision in the undress of all of the things that limit us and prevent us from seeing the light. Because, deep down, that the light has never ceased to shine. It was just in hiding underneath the layers of fear, of doubt, of expectations, of others. And when we decided to release this light, it is when we allow it to enlighten you on every dark corner of our life, everything changes. It was as if the world around us, it also turned out, because we have started to see the beauty in the imperfections, the strength in vulnerability, and hope in our very essence. It is a journey of discovery in silence, for the small revelations of daily life that, taken together, they build a new narrative, a story of self-love, connection, and true with everything that we do. And, in the process, we realize that the greatest beauty lies precisely in this, our authenticity, and the courage to be who you really are, without fear, without shame, and without masks. Because, at the end of the day, this is our revolution, and accept in full, with all of our shadows and lights, and you understand that, in doing so, we are not only free, but also inspired those who are at our side, do the same thing. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. If you've come this far, it's because that's the message he spoke to you in some way. Very few people can devote themselves to reflect deeply, and if you're here, it's a sign that it is this journey that makes sense to you. He writes that it was for me. We know that this is a process of self-acceptance is not easy to do, and recognize that this is an important first step. So, if the conversation touched his heart, and leave a like, it helps us spread our story for a lot more people who need to hear it. And, of course, if you have felt that in this story, it made sense to share in the comments, I've been up to in the end because it made sense to me. Therefore, we can create a stronger connection, because we know that our message has reached some way to someone's heart. If you want to continue on this journey of self-discovery and transformation, and takes the chance to subscribe to the channel. Here, we share the ideas that really matter to you. It will help you understand that you are unique and valuable in the way that we do. And, if that kind of content is brought to you some of the light, it's like this is an incentive for more people to be able to also open up to this day. Every gesture, every comment is one way to strengthen this trade-off and show that we are united in this movement to grow. And, in order to continue, there's a video right here on the side that complement this video. You click and follow me, because that's the journey. We still have plenty more to learn. After all, the story has stayed with me until the very end, and I hope that you also have been to you. Because, at the bottom of this journey of mine as well, and with each step we take is a victory that brings us closer to most of our lives. So, stay with me, because the next chapter is coming out there, full of new discoveries and ideas, so that we can follow the firm on this journey.